the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Taking a look at today's main slate here, 9 games, and overall, I mean, kind of just your average slate. Nothing really that jumps out at me as something that's crazy. No cores,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice. Is that it?
Yeah,
You got to
yeah,
chime in.
definitely nice that we got a little 9 gamer here. Obviously, we have football here today. So I think that might take over the storyline of the day a little bit, but we got some fun baseball for sure early on.
Yeah, definitely. And first one here, we got the Indians and Yankees. Carlos Carrasco versus Masahiro Tanaka. And obviously, Carlos Carrasco, I mean, an above average right handed arm, and obviously struggled against the Yankees last time out. He's really underpriced here at 8,200. I mean, I think he's a viable GPP option here, just given the fact that, it is a weak Yankees offense, and Carrasco does have a solid strikeout rate. But obviously, I think there is still some blow up potential, but he's been pretty solid on the road this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of unfortunate that he's not really a cash game guy for me, just based on the other guys on the slate. But yeah, overall, I mean, the Yankees kind of had that big blow up offensive game the other day, but I still don't trust them. I still don't trust this offense very much. So I like Carrasco, solid arm, 8,200, good deal there.
Yeah, definitely. And really, once you get out of the, 1 through 4 hitters, it's a really easy back of the lineup to kind of get through. So I think Carrasco kind of bounces back. Not really looking to kind of pick on him and use really any Yankees bats against him, even though they are cheap.
Yeah, neither am I.
As far as the Indians bats go, I mean, I'm not really looking to use Tanaka, even though he is cheap, just 6,600. But he's just one of those guys I don't feel really comfortable using, even at a cheap price tag. But I'm not really looking to use some of these Indians at their prices either. Probably just a handful.
Yeah, I don't actually like this game in terms of offense that much. So Tanaka's super cheap. I don't know that you want to use him, but at the same time, you kind of just look at that 6,600 price and say, that's intriguing. But too many lefties in that Indians lineup. Maybe you look at a Chisenhall, or maybe this is the day you kind of attack the end of that lineup.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Lindor at 4.2 is a decent price tag. I don't really feel like I'm going to pay up for a 4.8 for Kipnis. Napoli, I mean, 4.8, obviously he's been red hot. There obviously is some home run potential here just because it is a friendly ballpark, and Tanaka can, give up the long ball.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you mentioned, I mean, Chisenhall, Tyler Nyquist at 3,800, decent pop in the end of that lineup. So, it's pretty limited.
Right.
Twins and Rays, next one here, Matt Andrees versus Kyle Gibson. And I don't know. I'm not really looking to use the Twins here, even though they have been kind of red hot over the last 2 weeks or so. I kind of like Andresa here at 6,900. I mean, decent favorite at home. Twins got a pretty low projected run total. He does miss some bats. I mean, he's got a swinging strike rate right around Jacob deGrom's number. So I'm kind of okay with using him as an SP2.
Yeah, I'm gonna distance myself from that one, but at the same time, I don't disagree with it. I I don't want to pay up for the Twins, but I'm not necessarily targeting them either. I'm not looking at Kyle Gibson either, so I'm not really looking at this game unless you're talking about the lefties in the Rays lineup.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, hard to get away from Brad Miller right now. 4,500. I mean, still a decent price tag for me given his upside. For me, I think it is the lefties. Evan Longoria, I think if you do need a cheap third baseman, 3,400 is really nice value for him. But yeah, for the most part, I'm with you. I think the lefties, Corey Dickerson, GPP play. Gibson really doesn't miss that many bats.
Yeah, and depending on where Kevin Kmare is, he might be someone to look at as well.
Yeah, definitely. And overall, I'm with you. Twins bats, I'm not really looking to use. Maybe Miguel Sano. I mean, he's kind of the only cheap guy with a lot of upside there.
Right.
Mets and Tigers, Jacob deGrom versus Anibal Sanchez. And for me, I'm just kind of looking more so at the Mets side of things. And I don't really mind them, given there's some of those prices and Anibal Sanchez, the way he struggled this season. I don't mind a Granderson at 4K. Neil Walker is certainly intriguing given his recent success. I think that's a pretty fair price at 4,100.
Yeah, not bad. I'm okay. I'm definitely okay with that at 41. I think there are a few options in this lineup, but overall, um, uh, it's pretty nice. Granderson, Walker, Bruce. I'm okay with all the lefties there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think kind of those are the only three to really use. Outside that, I don't feel like you need to kind of dive down to a Deaza or a Loney.
No, no, for sure not.
As far as the Tigers go, I mean, I'm not looking to use Jacob deGrom. I think it is a tougher matchup. I kind of want something a little bit easier if I'm paying over 10K for a pitcher. Um, I don't know, but I'm not targeting him. It's just kind of a wash for me.
I could see using him in a tournament. It is expensive for sort of the matchup there, but at the same time, it is DeGrom. I think he could shut down this lineup in a best case scenario. So, deep tournament guy that you could get at potentially low ownership today.
Yeah, I mean, he is going to be low on just because it is a Tigers offense, and he is a small favorite, minus 125. I mean, any bats against him, I'll probably roll out maybe a Victor Martinez at 3,700. That might be the only guy I'd take a shot at just because he is pretty cheap. I think everyone else is kind of priced up a little too high for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Reds and Pirates next year, Dan Strader versus Garrett Cole. And Garrett Cole is one of the guys I am taking a look at today. Still priced relatively cheap for his consideration, 9,200. Big favorite there at home, minus 182. Reds projected for right around 3 runs. Cole's a nice cash game guy for me. He's pitching well of late. Last couple of starts, he looks finally looks healthy, and gets a weak Reds offense.
Yeah, I think this is the clear cash option. Even at 92, obviously been solid the last few starts. This Reds offense just isn't really the same without Jay Bruce, unfortunately. So I like this quite a bit. I think a lot of people are gonna like this quite a bit. He's gonna be a chalky cash game option. If you want to switch things up in tournaments, maybe you fade him, but I could see his ownership getting up there, especially with Vegas and how that's standing currently.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think GPPs, I mean, I kind of might look to cheaper arms to kind of try and get that upside with. But yeah, cash games, it's hard to really go against Cole. With that being said, I mean, I'm not really looking to use any sort of Reds bats there. But the Pirates side, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of. I think just this offense overall is pretty lackluster. Starling Marte's been red hot. If you did want to pay up for a bat, I mean, he's had great success. I mean, over a 370 WOBA against righties this year. I'm okay with Marte, but outside of that, it's just kind of. Ugh.
Yeah, I agree.
Giants and Nationals, Tanner Roark for Madison Bumgarner. Madison Bumgarner, I mean, obviously shelled in his last start against the Phillies, facing a Nationals team that, they are good. They're a top 5 team against lefties. I don't know. He might make for an intriguing GPP option just because you are going to get him at lower ownership, and he does have that high strikeout rate, and is a small favorite there on the road.
I'm not afraid of the Nationals with Bumgarner, really. I get why you don't want to pay that price for a potential downside with this Nationals lineup, but at the same time, it is Bumgarner. 12.9 is expensive, probably just a tournament guy, but at the same time, super high upside, lower ownership than normal. Always has the strikeout upside, so I'm still in on him quite a bit.
Yeah, I think this game overall is just going to be a GPP game for me. Because, I mean, you can make the case for Bumgarner, obviously, but you can also make the case for some of these Nationals hitters like a Trey Turner or a Jason Worth, Wilson Ramos, who all have hit lefties very well this year. So if you wanted to get exposure to this game and kind of lower exposure just because it is, still a bad matchup for the Nationals, I don't mind it in tournaments because there still is some upside, and you should catch them in a little bit lower ownership.
Yeah, absolutely on both sides. I don't think people are going to be targeting either side. And then in terms of the Giants, I mean, we're starting to see Eduardo Nunez sort of move up in the lineup. Obviously, 2 triples last game. I think that is a solid grouping. I'm not really afraid of Rourke, especially with the end of the lineup. So 4, 5, 6, I'm okay with using.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't even mind a Brandon Belt or a Buster Posey, both at 3,800. Relatively cheap for them. I'm not really in on using a Span or Pagan. I think it's just more kind of the middle there, and as you mentioned, towards the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So Orioles and White Sox next year. James Shields versus Dylan Bundy, and Bundy should be a popular arm today, just given his recent success and strikeout upside. And now he's facing a White Sox team that a bottom 10 offense against right-handers, slightly above average strikeout rate. I like Bundy quite a bit here, 7,800. I think that's a pretty solid price, and the way he's pitching, it's hard to get away from him.
Yeah, and if anything, you're really avoiding this White Sox lineup. Way too inconsistent to trust any singular piece from that lineup, and I'm not too confident in their run output today. So, I mean, even a Todd Frazier at 4 doesn't make me feel too comfortable. Jose Abreu at 41 is just not something I want to get involved in. So, unless you're trying to be super contrarian, which isn't optimal, then I think you're probably avoiding that White Sox lineup.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's just more focused on the Orioles and their bats against James Shields. And the Orioles bats have been kind of been in a slump since the All-Star break. There hasn't been anything substantial from them in seems to be a while. I mean, unless you're Pedro Alvarez, who has like 6 homers in the last 10 games. They haven't done a whole lot, but I do think today is a good matchup against Shields, who obviously we saw that blow potential last start. And I think his 6-7 game stretch there where he was pitching well was just kind of a fluke because the low strikeout rate, really low BABIP numbers. So I'm okay with really targeting the Orioles really 1 through 7, 1 through 8.
Yeah, sign me up for the Adam Jones Machado Trumbo grouping there. I'm definitely okay with paying up there, and it's not even that much of a pay up. So you can definitely fire away with those guys. Chris Davis, I mean the normal. Even a Matt Wieters batting in the 7th spot, I'm okay with. I think this entire lineup's definitely in play, and in terms of their over under a 5, I think they're definitely a good shot of going over that.
Yeah, definitely. And Trumbo and Machado, I mean, both really recently priced. I mean, 4,200 for Machado, 39 for Trumbo. So I don't really mind those price tags. And for me, I'm kind of actually leaning on Pedro Alvarez more so than Chris Davis today, just because I'm just going to ride the hot streak with that one.
That's fair.
Chris Davis has been. I mean, obviously, if you wanted to make a swerve, it is to Chris Davis. I think Pedro Alvarez might catch the higher ownership.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely one of my favorite teams to kind of target, and I think they're definitely stack worthy with some of those cheaper prices.
Mm-hmm.
Rangers and Astros here. You got Yu Darvish versus Joe Musgrove, and this one, I mean, a relatively low-scoring game projected. Darvish's price tag, 13-1's a little expensive for me, but obviously there is some strikeout upside there.
It's so extreme that I like it, because I think it's good. People are going to look at that and be like, what? 13-1. So I think that's definitely I like this matchup. I think he's got great strikeout upside tonight. A potential cash option for me, even though it's just a ridiculous price. So I like the matchup regardless of his price, and I'm not really targeting Astros today.
No, I'm not either. And you look, I mean, this Astros offense, they really are boom or bust. I mean, 15th in WOBA, but a 24.2% strikeout rate this year. So you can definitely see Darvish possibly racking up the Ks. My only issue with him, I mean, he doesn't go deep into games. You really do have to hope he gets around that 10-digit, strikeout mark, because he isn't going to pitch over 100. And kind of 5 or 6 innings is what you're going to get out of him unless he's really efficient. So that's my only downside with him. But, yeah, I mean, Darvish has a pretty high ceiling today against this Houston team.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of Joe Musgrove, I mean, Shin-Soo Choo, I'm okay with at 42, and also Rogan Odor. But beyond that, I'm kind of waiting for this Rangers team to get in a groove before I fully commit.
Yeah, I don't mind like a Jonathan Lucroy. I mean, 4K is a reasonable price tag for him. I mean, last couple of games we've seen him, up over 4,800 or something like that. So that's a decent price tag. They are pretty cheap. I mean, obviously Musgrove is a talented right-hander. But yeah, I'm with you. I think you can kind of take some shots, but it's not with the right-handers. I think it's more with the lefties.
Right.
Moving on here, we get the Blue Jays and Royals. Yordano Ventura versus Marcus Stroman. Blue Jays bats here. Once again, I mean, for me, they're tough to trust. even against your Dono Ventura, who has been up and down. But I don't mind looking at those bats really 1 through 5 if you want to make a move in tournaments. Edwin Encarnacion 4-6 might be the only cash game guy I see. I don't really take a shot at a Bautista or Donaldson at those prices.
Yeah, Donaldson and Batista have been super inconsistent of late in some really good matchups. So I think you still fire away with them, but it's tough to pay up for Donaldson's price with the way he's sort of hit lately. Even Encarnacion, he's been saving himself with home runs, but he hasn't really been hitting well. Just a bunch of 1 for 4 with homers on good days. So not optimal, but they are a nice tournament stack for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and as you mentioned, it just seems like that's what it is: 1 for 4 with a homer or nothing at all. Obviously we saw Donaldson have a double homer game the other night, but really nothing substantial from this team, nothing really consistent about this Blue Jays offense. So I like him more so in GPPs. Obviously, it's not the greatest ballpark there, but obviously a day game helps that out. And on the Royal side, I mean, I'm not really looking to use any guys against them. I mean, obviously, I think you can maybe target some lefties like an Eric Hosmer if you wanted to. But outside of that, I mean, Stroman's been fairly tough in righties. I'm just kind of staying away.
Yeah, I'm not buying this Royals team today. While Stroman's been inconsistent and not necessarily someone to trust, I think he's a decent tournament option tonight, and I'm not really targeting the Royals.
Yeah, definitely. Braves and Cardinals next year. Adam Wainwright versus Mike Foltynewicz. And Wainwright's a guy who I'm not really looking to use as a pitcher. I think overall, obviously, I do think a win and a decent start's there, but I just kind of looking for more upside on my pitcher. Attacking this Braves team really hasn't been the highest of upside plays of
No,
late.
it hasn't. They're a little feisty now, and that was starting to happen even before the Matt Kemp trade. So, him and Freeman are a pretty decent combo in the middle there. I'm not afraid of Wainwright in a deep tournament, but yeah, like you mentioned, there are better options and certainly not a cash option. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. I do love this Cardinals lineup, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, great matchup for those lefties against Foltynewicz. I mean, he's allowed a 383 WOBA to lefties since last season, 2.01 home runs per nine. Carpenter left the game yesterday, but if he's back, obviously he's a great option at second base, third base, whatever you want to use him. Brendan Moss a little expensive for me, but I think there is some upside there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not afraid to use a Stephen Piscotty at 3,700 or Matt Holliday at 37. I think those are pretty reasonably priced. Obviously, the splits are leaning towards the lefties, but anyone in the top four of that lineup is totally fine with me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, projected for over 4.5 runs. I'm with you. Using that front four there should be intriguing. And Fulci, he's been better against righties this year, but overall is definitely a guy who you can still target against for that home run upside.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap things up with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for our great tools and content.